multiple times we actually ran into someone sleeping in an abandoned house. So that was her and I used to go around. Maybe we'd hit 10 properties a day. Looking at all the stuff that was on the market, because back then you were seeing so many REOs on the market. So that's kind of how we actually built our portfolio originally, was buying a lot of property. And I think in the first year we got to 20 units because that was because we did 20 turkeys. Yeah. We did 20 turkeys that year. And then shortly thereafter, I think next year we got to 50 units. The next year it was like 100 units. And then we kind of started going, I think we got 150, 200, and got up to 500 units.
All right, Matthew, Kevin, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear your story, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much.
So tell us, where are you guys tuning in from right now? What neck of the woods? What part of the country?
We're from Holyoke, Massachusetts.
Awesome. And where is that in relation to the Bean? I mean, Boston,
Right. What everybody
Common
knows.
question, right?
Yeah. So basically, the Holyoke and Springfield area is on the western side of the state. It's the Holyoke itself is the birthplace of volleyball, and Springfield, of course, is where the Basketball Hall of Fame is located. So if you're a basketball fan, you might know our place on the map.
Does it piss you guys off if people just assume you're from Boston?
A little bit, yeah. I'm not really a fan of being associated. I always say we're on the good side of the state.
There you go. Yeah, I'm from the suburbs of New York City, and people always assume that I'm from like Manhattan and that I've never seen grass before. And I'm like, no, New York is not like that. It's a very small part of New York. Well, again, guys, it's a pleasure to have you here. As I said before we went live, typically, we have a one-on-one, so we have two people, right? The more the merrier. So we'll just kind of start off. I know you guys are partners. Tell us about what you do and what you guys are all about.
Okay.
Well, we've been business partners for about 12 years now. We started a long time back in the world of real estate with, Matt actually had a little bit of experience prior to working with me.
Yep. So I actually started when I was 16 years old. And I actually bought a 2-family out in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and later on met Kevin, and we kind of started growing from there about 12 years ago. Like Kevin said, we kind of started this company and buying foreclosures and just out
of nowhere. I mean, we scraped up literally a few grand a piece and bought an absolute dump of a property in a really, really tough street in a very tough city of Springfield, Massachusetts, and just winged it. We fixed it up as best we could before and after our work days, working regular jobs or whatever it is we were doing. And, just literally just jumped right in with both feet. Wouldn't be the first time we did something like that in our career. I mean, that's literally how we do almost everything, is we just kind of do our best to just plow right into it and sort it out as we go. So that's how we started.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it, right? I mean, you did figure it out.
Exactly.
Honestly, you guys are both on the same page with that, and I'm much more apprehensive about it. So 12 years into it, proven success doing it, and I'm still like, oh gosh, I don't know, and Matt's like, no, just shut up, we're doing it. Just let's go.
I mean, I'm kind of like that. That's my personality in general. I mean, I even jumped into the world of like Ninja Warrior, and I'm like, that's it. Just jump right in, and I'll figure it out as I go. Same thing with my real estate career. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. That I think that's what makes a business partnership work, right? One gas, one brake. I'm a gas pedal. Sometimes gas pedals. Sometimes we make mistakes. Matthew, I know you know what I mean, man. Sometimes we get ourselves into some deep shit, and we need the gas to be like, and the brake to be like, whoa, what's going on here? So 12 years.
But the thing is,
go ahead.
Just to finish that thought, though. I tell people all the time, you wouldn't get somewhere though if you didn't put your foot on the gas. You don't get anywhere by riding the brake. So it's absolutely both pieces are incredibly critical and certainly have kept us going.
Yep.
I totally agree. You have to know when to pull triggers, especially in real estate, because the thing about real estate, and I know you guys will agree with this, is the deals, they just don't last, right? Like there's no time to think, especially in the single family space, right? With the market we're having right now. I mean, these deals are gone. I can't speak for Mass, but down in Texas, these deals are gone in a day or less. So you got to pull the trigger on a good deal.
We actually can talk about a house
right now that we're
actually pursuing a 4-family right now that they're closing on it today, and we're trying to buy it. And they're like, oh, well, if you don't get in like in the next couple hours, pretty much we're going to have it sold tomorrow.
Yeah, we got a ton of people looking at it tomorrow. So I'm like, so we're literally, we're sitting here with you, talking to you, and then we got a quick meeting to deal. And then we're going to go, try to get into this house to see if we're going to buy it. We're going to spend 15 minutes probably. That's about all we'll have.
Otherwise, it's gone.
Yeah. So we're actually spending more time with you than we are investing in our due diligence on this property.
I'm honored. So 15 minutes due diligence. Wow. So walk us through that process, right? So for a 4-unit deal, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Four units, you said? So walk us through that process, right? What you have 15 minutes to know if you're going to buy it or if you're going to pass on it. Yeah. What does that look like for you? Like, what does that analysis look like?
It looks like we're going to have probably 5 or 6 minutes to spare, to be honest. It doesn't take a ton, I guess, at this stage and comfort level that we have,
right.
With being able to look. And I mean, I was just texting with the seller, and I said, yeah, dude, we just need to be able to put our eyes into place and make sure that there's nothing just crazy out of control going on in there. We're gonna look and see what the heating systems look like. Look for obvious signs of leaks and water damage.
So Kevin kind of handles more of the tenant side, and I'm kind of more of the renovation side. So I just need to get in there, and we've seen hundreds of homes.
Yeah.
So we kind of have a good idea of all right, what's the condition of the roof? Is there shake underneath? Do I have to change out? How many layers? How old's the boiler roughly? Right. Foundation. The general plumbing, knob and tube. Is there asbestos? Is it insulated? And just kind of the general overlay. Are we talking about plaster walls? Or we got sheetrock? Has anything been updated? And just gives an idea.
Yeah, and most of these things are, they're visually very apparent. Right. And I mean, looking at something and, compare it to something else you might have a lot of experience with in your life that you're, if you're a single guy and you're walking into a bar or a club, the first thing you're doing is looking around and noticing how many attractive ladies there might be in the place, right? I mean, so you just, without really thinking about it, your brain is taking note of things. So when Matt walks through a property, and even I might not be with that kind of specialty, but even when I walk through a property, my brain is taking note of like, wow, that's an old heating system, or boy, I think I just heard a drip, or what's the story with that roof? And I mean, you see these things very, very quickly, and right. You can identify problems pretty fast.
Well, also you heart on the pulse of the market, so really what each unit's going to rent for. So we know kind of, all right, the cash flow is going to be X, and then so if we pay this amount, this is how much we're going to see, and a general maintenance. And we've done these hundreds of times now, so it's not like it's a big deal. It's just kind of get in, get out, and really evaluate it real quick.
Right. Awesome. Now, is this an off-market deal or an on-market deal?
It's an off-market deal. With 2 different acquaintances that we know.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that's really kind of the where to find the deals are right now is anything off-market. I mean, most stuff on the market's already been kind of picked through everyone else.
Yeah.
Right. So this specific property is it coming from a wholesaler? Somebody already has it under contract, or is it
kind of
somebody? Okay.
Well, so I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, basically, it's a dude that's also you would refer to him as your competitor. I mean, and that's really what it is we don't refer to a lot of folks in the industry as our competitors. We refer to them as our colleagues because this is somebody who does basically the same type of line of work that we're in,
right.
And. He's acquiring this thing for obviously, whatever he's paying for it, and he's going to sell it to us at a price that we're willing to pay for a profit. We know he's going to, make good money on it, and we're happy to see him be successful and make good money on it because we also know that we can run this property and also make good money on it.
Right.
And I mean, I think he's mostly, so he's kind of the middleman in the sense, but he's looking to basically 1031 his profits into some more property. So he's kind of shifting more of his units into commercial. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what he's been, kind of doing. So we're still heavily in the residential space.
Yeah.
Now, out of curiosity, we already came this far. Let's talk about the numbers on this deal. What are we looking at? What's purchase price and ARV and potential rents, cash flow, all that good stuff?
So the asking value is about 250. The ARV, when it's all finished, it should be around probably I think 325, 340 maybe. It depends. I really want to get in there to see what the age and all the other stuff is, but I'll say around there. And then cash flow, would you say?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a 4-family. So, I mean, it really depends on the size of the apartments and everything like that. But I'm hoping we can squeeze pretty good rents out of it if they're good size. I mean, everybody says, oh, a 2-bedroom in this town, rents for X amount of money, $1,000 a month. But really, if you've seen some 2-bedrooms that are absolute closets and outdated as hell. And then you see some stuff that's nicer, modern, more spacious, has an extra room, so technically a lot of people would use it as a 3. So it stretched the price considerably. I think we're easily going to see this thing rent for, $875, $900 a unit. So, $3,600 of rent coming in.
Right.
Nice, guys.
I mean, right now it's under rented. So.
Is it occupied?
Half occupied.
Half? Wow. So $250 for a 4-unit deal. Guys, I might need to come up there and start buying.
Oh, really? What are you paying?
Well, so I invest out of Houston, and Houston doesn't really have a lot of 4-unit deals. It's either small apartment complexes, 10, 15 units, or your single family stuff. And then, of course, your big stuff. I'm from up north, right? And I don't know, properties are just different up here. Like duplexes are a dime a dozen, right? 4plexes. But when you go down south, like you really don't see a lot of 4-unit buildings. I don't know. They don't build them. They have them, but they're not as common as like up here, But yeah, that's super awesome.
We have streets with all 2 families.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys lock that deal in and everything goes awesome for you.
Yeah, we hope so too. Thanks.
So you mentioned earlier that you guys have been in business for 12 years. Is that right? Together buying property?
Yep.
Okay. So what has it been like? First off, that first property you bought, right? Do you guys remember what that deal looked like?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Don't take us back there. Don't take us back there.
For educational purposes only.
So that one, yes. So I recall that one. We still actually own that one to this day.
Yep.
It was a Boston-style duplex. 5 bedrooms each side, 1.5 bathrooms each side. And it was a big green monster, I guess we would call it.
Yeah.
And we had to strip the floors, new plumbing, new kitchens, new baths. A lot of the walls were kind of broken down. The roof was in good shape. Mm-hmm. We had to put new heating systems in, new hot water tanks. It was a pretty big rehab for our first one.
Yeah, no, we again, like you said, jumped in with both feet, and I mean, that was great. I remember I was actually working a regular job at the time, and I had to bring clothes with me in my car. I would show up, work on the house with Matt and whoever else we had helping us, with my crappy working clothes, and then dress nice, go to my job, punch out there, put my crappy clothes back on, and go back and work on the duplex. Good time.
Oh yeah, I remember I was in there, 2:00 in the morning with the drum sander. There was like layer on layer of paint painted over these gorgeous hardwood floors. So I was there just sanding those, getting the edger coming in.
I did a lot of that too. That's right. They don't let me fix things anymore. It's terrible. Now that we have better people, I'm not allowed to freaking touch a paintbrush. It's ugly.
So, Matt, it sounds like you have some construction experience. Were you working in construction and renovations prior to getting into the investing world, or did you kind of learn as you go, or how did what did that look like?
I was actually kind of pre-med for school. I had no construction background other than my grandfather's a plumber, but that doesn't make me a plumber at all.
That's not how it works.
No. It wasn't hereditary, unfortunately. The genes didn't transfer down. But pretty much I kind of jumped in with both feet. And since I at the time wasn't working, and Kevin had a job, and our other partner at the time had a job, So I was going to be the boots on the ground. I'll learn everything, and they'll help when they can. And so basically, I was like, all right. So I just started talking to other people, watching YouTube videos, whatever it took. Going to Home Depot, talking to all the people there, going to the building department and talking to the inspectors. Well, what do you want me to do? And just kind of learned it out, and then eventually went and got my construction supervisor license, got my asbestos license, my lead licenses, real estate license, and just kept the education going.
Wow, so you actually need those licenses to work on your properties in Massachusetts?
Well, I mean, to pull the permits, we needed someone to do it, whether it be myself or hiring a subcontractor. But I felt I really wanted to learn it so that I could actually evaluate other people's work. So before hiring someone else, I wanted to know what needed to be done, how it had to be done the right way.
Permits? What are permits?
What are permits?
we don't like permits on this show. Yeah. No, pull your permits, guys. For the listeners out there, pull your damn permits. Don't learn the hard way.
We've done.
Yeah, there's a million reasons why, in seriousness, there is a million reasons why it's smart and good to have permits. Not to mention the least of things is when you piss off an inspector for something else later, and you will eventually. We had a tenant that actually complained about something. I don't know, and so the inspector was kind of cranky with us. We, for whatever reason, he took the tenant's complaint to heart and looked up the property's history. Didn't see very much of any permits pulled. And then when he eventually went out and did an inspection, He was like, oh, what is that? You look like you did some kind of work here and there and wherever. And, he's basically like, I didn't see any permits pulled and that looks pretty new. So, maybe you have to rip it all apart, and
Yeah, it sounds way too familiar. I went through a similar situation, unfortunately, not long ago. Yeah. I mean, that's long gone. I sold the property, but I think one of the neighbors made a phone call and, got upset with me, and inspector came, shut down the job, threatened to make me open up all the walls. The only thing that he knew that we did was there was we put in new windows.
Yeah, okay.
And you have to get that certification, right? What is it? The ICEC, CCEC, whatever the hell it is. Who knows? It's some certification, and you got to get the engineers and all that good stuff. So, it turned into a big headache. But, pull your permits, guys. Pull your permits. Always pull your permits.
At the very least, it helps later, when something's contested, tenant tells you that, they're not paying rent. So you take them to court, and the tenant turns around and says, well, haven't had heat. I didn't have heat for 2 months in the middle of winter because their heating system broke. And we can be like, look, you can see it right here. The heat went out. They reported it on the 19th. We pulled a permit on the 22nd, and the job was inspected and closed out on the 23rd. They were without a working heating system for, 4 or 5 days, not 2 months. And we compensated them for it, or we put them in a hotel for it. And, so these kind of things will also help you with a liability perspective too.
Well, at the same time with that though, so what do you, let's just say to swap out a hot water tank, I think it's like about $60, $75 in Massachusetts. I don't know what it is in every other state, but you're saving $60, $75 for the extra liability or pissing off an inspector. It seems like a small price to pay.
For risk.
Yeah.
Sure thing. Absolutely. So, Matt, you were pre-med prior to real estate, right?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin, what were you doing prior to real estate?
Good question.
Yeah, what was I doing? So, I was in. So we were in the same school together. But I was there for communications. I ended up working in retail sales management for several years after college and before we started doing this stuff here. I had basically a zero background in terms of dealing with real estate, property. Basically, I had a bit of a background of dealing with talking people out of their money. So that worked out well with doing a rental situation. But that's about it, helping people in general, I guess. But, so college education really doesn't translate all that well into property management or any of this kind of stuff.
You don't need it.
No.
I agree. I agree with that perspective. Especially with all the information that exists nowadays, online, offline. You don't need a degree to start your own real estate business, right? You just don't.
Definitely not.
Not at all. I haven't needed a degree to do any of the stuff I've done, to be honest. But with something like this is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, college is great. Education is fantastic, and having the social exposure to all sorts of people and everything like that is fantastic. But that's for its own thing. I
mean, Kevin's practically done most of our evictions, so he's without a law degree, he's practically a lawyer.
Actually true. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one in housing court.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a common discussion in the entrepreneurial world: is should I go to college? Should I not go to college? I believe college trains people how to be really good workers, and minus the exception of few, right? I mean, there's Ivy League people that go on to make billions and billions of dollars, but for the average person that goes to college and gets like a business degree, it just doesn't apply to real world business. And everybody has their own path, but it's interesting to hear from your experience, for you to say, look, I did all this stuff, I've been in real estate for 12 years, and you just don't need college to do what I'm doing.
Well, I think I was actually just talking to one of our employees today just about return on investment of college. And so you go to college for 4 years or whatever it might be, and you spend, especially now with the price of college, $80,000, $90,000 coming out with a bunch of debt, when you could have just started that 4 years and got maybe a $30,000 job, and you just came out 4 years later with $80,000 in debt, and you're getting maybe a $45,000 job. But that time you could have been building up or started another business. I mean, the return on investment seems very, I guess there is, of course, the value of, education, which is important. And I'm all for education, but not necessarily, you don't need to do that in college.
Self-education, right? That's what makes you rich and wealthy. So,
Agreed.
I could have this discussion for hours. High school curriculum, they're not even giving you rich dad, poor dad in high school, teaching you about credit scores and mortgages and all that good stuff. But they're teaching you about.
We can't have this discussion for hours, though, because we do have that property we're trying to buy, and we got student loans that we got to pay still.
All right, gentlemen. So that first deal, you still own it today.
Yeah.
What year was that? What year was that first property?
That was 2008.
2008. Okay. So walk us through kind of from 2008 to 2020. How your business has grown, right? What did that whole process looks like? And you know what? Actually, hold that thought. Before I answer ask that question, I wanted to ask you, how did you finance your first deal?
All right. So each one of us, so it was 3 partners, and we came with each about $5,000. So we had $15,000. And then we basically found a hard money lender to basically front the rest of the repairs, and had a draw schedule for some of that. So basically we found it, I think we bought it for what, 70,000?
Yeah, maybe.
And so we had the 15 for the rehab, and that was my naive. I thought only 15,000 in rehab was going to be needed, and it was close to 30. But Kevin was working, so he kind of helped, kept funding that as
had a good day at work. Here's some money.
But
Okay.
And then basically at the end, kind of the BRRRR strategy, before it really was coined, the BRRRR strategy, and paid off the hard money lender, actually pulled out a little extra because there was an 80% LTV on it, and took that money and kind of rolled that into the next one.
Nice. Awesome. So you used the BRRRR method, and you were able to refinance it, pay off your original lender, and then go on and on and on. Okay. Now, what's interesting? So you said you had 3 partners on one single family deal, right? And you were buying it for cash flow purposes, right? You were buying it to hold it, not to flip it. What was your expectation cash flow wise? Because it really doesn't seem like there's enough to go around in a single family deal for 3 partners.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't expecting that we were gonna retire off of one, 2-family house or anything. And we wanted to keep doing, if this worked, we were going to try to figure out a way to keep expanding it. But yeah, I mean, that was basically the idea. It was just our first one, supplemental income, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's the way we kind of thought about it.
Well, I mean, part of it was, so we figured roughly there'd be about $200 or $300 per unit profit, as well as we actually pulled out an extra about $30,000 from what we actually had into it. So not only, and that was tax-free because it was a loan. So we had $30,000 plus we were getting about $500, $600 a month in, once it was all fully rented in cash flow. So it's not small, a small amount of money. It was, a decent amount.
Right.
And actually to this day, it makes now about, we're making what, $1,500 a month cash flow?
Yeah, now we're doing great with that property.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Good. So the numbers worked on that one.
Correct.
And it wasn't just one unit. You said it was a duplex, so you had 2 units there. Two.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Some I've been asked that question before. One tenant, single family deal. Can you have more than one person owning that for cash flow? If a deal's only making $300 a month cash flow, after expenses, I mean, there's just not enough meat on the bone there for 3 partners, or 2 partners for that matter.
I think it just depends really on what the way you want to look at it. I mean, if it's the same 2 or 3 partners, and you buy that property and then 10 more deals like it, well, now you've got something going. You're looking at it as a portfolio performance, and you're also looking at the fact that you're hopefully you're paying down a mortgage, you're paying down the debt, right, in principle. So you're building up, an equity situation.
So to scale the operation and just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right, and with multiple partners, you've got more people, more hands involved, which can be a bad thing. Don't get me wrong.
More people to blame.
yes, exactly. We all like to point the fingers at each other. But absolutely. I mean, it gets different partners may have different specialties. If you're, hands-on partners, or if you're putting it into a management company, letting the management company handle it. At least with 3 partners or multiple partners, you're sharing the risk, so you're not. A lot of people might not just jump into something like this if it's just them. They're like, holy, I can't risk my family's savings on this one shot. What if it fails? Oh, if you go in with a few other people,
right.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Having people that have skill sets that you might lack can make a deal perform better potentially, right? So back to that question.
Yeah, and that's
sure. We seem to be getting like a little lag. The audio's cutting in and out, so I apologize if I speak over you. So back to that original question that I asked, which was, what did the last 12 years look like for you guys? So you did that first deal. You still have it today. Did you just start marketing on your own? The typical stuff like direct mail bandit signs to get more deals? Like, were you buying portfolios? Like, walk us through that.
Well, so early on when we first started, we actually teamed up with a fantastic realtor, one of the few realtors that was willing to go into all these abandoned homes that were in Springfield.
Yeah, don't forget, these are some really bad and tough, challenging, what's the diplomatic way to say really bad neighborhoods? But there are some really tough places. Yeah.
We're talking like the hood.
Yeah,
the hood.
Yeah.
The hood. Okay.
And she marched right in like she owned the place. I mean,
Yep.
It was
multiple times we actually ran into someone sleeping in an abandoned house. So that was her and I used to go around. Maybe we'd hit 10 properties a day. Looking at all the stuff that was on the market, because back then you were seeing so many REOs on the market. So that's kind of how we actually built our portfolio originally, was buying a lot of property. And I think in the first year we got to 20 units because that was, because we did 20 turkeys. We did 20 turkeys that year. And then shortly thereafter, I think next year we got to 50 units. The next year it was like 100 units. And then we kind of started going, I think we got 150, 200, and got up to 500 units.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Holy smokes! So you did 20 units your first year.
Yeah, we need a nap. Can we get a break? It's been a long 12 years.
Wow, that's impressive, gentlemen. That's very impressive. So you worked yourself up to buying 500 units, and you had those in your portfolio under management.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, we manage them all ourselves and kind of build a team around it.
Right. And I see in the back there for the YouTube watchers, you have Yellow Brick Management. I'm assuming you just created your own management company to manage your properties. Nice. Now, do you manage other people's properties as well, or just your own?
It's funny. We actually just really started offering that. We actually sold off some of our portfolio. So, we wanted to add back the units we kind of, lost by offering management to other people. So that's kind of our new thing right now is figuring out how to be a management company for, other owners.
Right. Yeah, we kind of found that we have a great team, and then there's also not a lot of great management companies that around here. That's hence why we started our own management company. So we figured might as well offer our services because we have them all under one house now. So
nice. Why not, right? You're already doing it for yourself.
Right.
I want to dissect the 0 to 500 units path, right? Because one of the biggest struggles for real estate entrepreneurs is scaling, right? Scaling in a competitive market. With what's going on right now, some of these markets are just exploding, and it's tough to get deals, right? Like, I'm sure you guys have been there. You get a lead, you show up, and the seller tells you to get in line, that there's somebody in there touring it already, or somebody just left and they made an offer. How do you compete, right? And I know you said you don't compete, right? But how do you compete? Because essentially, right, we're all in, looking to buy deals. So what does that look like for you guys? What advice do you have there?
Well, so, one of the ways we actually, over the last few years, as it's gotten more competitive, like you're saying, we actually, turned to a lot of foreclosure auctions, and we kind of built a system, and it's all about building systems around it. So we kind of created some software that would pull different auction houses and when they're running, so that we could kind of be on top of it versus the people that were just looking at the newspaper and trying to pull it out of there. So we kind of pulled all that data into one spot and then pulled, what we would be able to pay based on a certain algorithm that we created. And then we would have multiple people that would be like runners to go look at the property, and had a system for them on what they could bid at to the maximum based on the renovations, and kind of have a little formula for taking out costs so that we could make sure we had the right profit margins. That's a big way we kind of grew in the last few years as the competition is growing.
Yeah, and it's risky. Buying stuff in foreclosure is not for the faint of heart, because again, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but here you don't generally get to see the inside of the property, and a lot of times you're also trying to buy these things with very little advanced notice, or any time or ability to do really any due diligence. So you're buying, almost, whatever's behind door number 3 kind of a thing, and it's not for the faint of heart. And you have to be very, very careful with how much you're willing to pay for these kind of things, so you don't overpay and get stuck holding the bag.
Right. And the other thing is, as we've over the last 12 years, we've made a lot of good local banks. So now what we've been doing is also buying notes from banks and foreclosing on those properties. So that's also been a way we've been acquiring assets. Maybe, not a lot, maybe 4 or 5 properties a year, but it's definitely more sources of acquisitions that we didn't have, that the other competition won't have, because they don't have those relationships.
Right.
Wow. So when you buy those non-performing notes, do you try to get them to perform, or do you just
ideally not?
No, just start the foreclosure process?
Start the foreclosure process. Not right now with the what we're in, but before, we would just start the foreclosure process right away. And if they started
to perform, they perform.
Right. But I would say 90% of them at least didn't perform, and we would then just get it through to the end, or we'll get them to sign a deed in lieu or something. So.
Now, you had mentioned that you were buying properties at the auction without seeing the inside, which is common in the markets that I buy in as well. So I don't know if that's like the standard, but I know auction.com, it always says no tours, no inside, whatever. I've personally never bought at foreclosure auction, because that's always been a fear of mine, is well, what if I open up the door and there's fucking nothing in there. You know, like,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
how, like, what advice do you have for somebody like me, right? Like, how
don't buy at auction. Seriously, I mean, that's, if that is a big concern and fear, don't do it. Go with a safer bet. It can be a very risky play, or do very creative detective work and due diligence. We've talked to neighbors. Actually, I was just at an auction the other day, and again, I'm not as sharp as some of the other folks on my team with this stuff, but one of the questions I was trying to figure out is if this place was septic or sewer. And, I started petting the neighbor's cat who had come out to watch the auction set up. And the neighbor saw me petting the cat and started being friendly to me. And so I started asking neighbors a little bit more about it. I said, oh, by the way, do you guys have septic or sewer out here? And she answered that question for me. And I'm able to help start getting critical data that I need so I can start putting together, how much it's going to cost, how much risk we're exposed to with the property.
I mean, the other way, what I found also is talking to building inspectors. They're going to have a general insight of what might have been going on, repairs or stuff like that. Talking to the health department if there's any open code violations, if they've ever been in there. Most of these homes that we're going to, they're in foreclosure for a reason, and they're not taking care of their mortgage. They're probably not taking care of the house as well. So there's a good chance of in there, and so they might have a good insight to give you some. Yeah, the kitchen's a mess. The bathroom's all shot. The roof's been leaking for years. Another little trick. Share all of our little.
I mean, geez.
I mean, you already made it this far, brother.
So, all right. A couple years ago, we bought like the DJI Spark drone. So it's like $400, and I send that up when I'm at an auction, so I can take a good look at the roof, the chimney, all that stuff. Which most other people can't, especially with these houses that are out in the country with they're surrounded by woods. You can't like walk back and actually see a good shot of the roof. The drone will get up there, and I can take a couple shots. That's definitely been saved us tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow, nice. That's a creative play. Now you're speaking as if the auction is held at the actual property.
Yes.
Oh yes.
It is.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
So Massachusetts is a non-judicial state for auctions. So in Massachusetts, they happen every day of the week, so Monday through Friday, pretty much till 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they can be all over the state. So you have a bunch of them going on. And I was just at a couple yesterday. Kevin was at one yesterday. And they happen actually at the steps of the property. The auctioneer has to make entry at the property and step on and read their legal notice and stuff like that. Connecticut is a judicial state where it actually has to go through the whole through the judge and has to be approved and all that stuff. And then it's actually held only one day a week, which is Saturday, at one time, so noon. So across the whole state of Connecticut, all the auctions for Saturday happen on Saturday at noon, and they're at the steps of the property. So that one's kind of interesting. There's 4 or 5 properties you're interested in. You better have 4 or 5 people that can run around the whole state. Otherwise, you're kind of got to pick and choose your battles there.
No kidding. Yeah. So in Texas, the auction is held the first Tuesday of every month, and it's in a convention center. So you have literally probably 5,000 people packed into a convention center at the tax sale and the foreclosures, and they're literally selling probably 1,000 houses that day in the span of 3 hours. Yeah, it's you get the binder of all the property, so you actually have to do due diligence prior to even showing up and know which numbers to look for.
Huh.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that they do it up there. It sounds a lot better up there. You actually get to go to the house.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you won't have one of the things we'll have is awesome. We'll have protesters, and we've actually seen people get their cars hit and swearing and chant. You can't kick this person out. No eviction.
Yeah, the protesters that get pretty abusive up this way, as if again the people at these properties are somehow victims of some just evil empire. It's pretty off-putting.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that, especially for like friends of the family and whatnot, probably getting upset and then they see you.
Yep.
You gotta wear a mask or something. Disguise yourself.
Now that masks are acceptable, I guess we can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, and what the funny thing is, the troubling thing is most of the time, not all the time, but often, these homes that are getting foreclosed are in fairly distressed conditions. I mean, these people weren't paying to keep their own home. They probably weren't able to pay or weren't willing to pay to keep their siding looking good or their fences up or keep the home in good condition. So when we come in and purchase these things, we're the first step in this home in this neighborhood getting put back on track. You probably weren't paying your property taxes. The home will be brought to good condition, code violations resolved, property taxes paid, and if we take a loan on it, darn it, we're paying the loan back to the people that we borrowed it from. So, I mean, really, we're turning this property around, and we're getting called names while doing it. Not a great situation.
Comes with the game, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, we've had some good cases where actually we've
done a lot of good ones. So, yeah.
We've had an owner-occupied house that we bought at foreclosure auction, and they for one reason or other they couldn't refinance, whatever it might be. We were able to fix some of the code violations in the house and then resell it to a family member or maybe a significant other. And so this way they got to keep the home. They got a better rate.
Yep.
We made a little bit of money, and they had maybe $50,000 less than what they had it for before. So
the only person that lost is the bank on that. But yeah, absolutely. So we've had a lot of great stories. We actually have some where we kept the home and we rented it back to the owners as well, and they were our tenants, and so
still are to this day.
And still are to this day, a few years later, and their kids stay in the same school system or whatever the story might be, and so and now the property is being kept up.
Exactly.
If there's a roof leak, it's taken care of. The heating system crashes, that's on our dime, so they don't have to worry about the major infrastructure stuff, and they didn't have to relocate. They're just paying a rent now instead of not paying a mortgage.
Sure. Now, when you go to these foreclosure auctions, how are you paying for the properties? Like, are you just paying cash out of your own pocket, or you using private capital? What does that look like?
So with a foreclosure auction in Mass, Connecticut's a little different. But in Mass, you have to generally bring a bank check made out to yourself, either $5,000 to generally $20,000, depending on the value of the property. And you have to close within 30 days. So trying to get a regular loan is not going to happen.
Right.
So what we've done is we just pay cash. This is the way it's quick and easy, and don't have to worry about trying to find a hard money lender that can still close, because sometimes there's a title issue and then things get delayed, and all of a sudden, then the bank's like, all right, we're ready to close tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So it's just easier to just pay cash for us.
Wow. So in Texas, you have to pay same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they don't give you 30 days. I wish they did. You got to pay right then and there.
Interesting.
They might give you like a few hours.
A few hours.
Yeah.
You just walk to the bank maybe.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But no, people show up with cashier checks ready to go.
Whew.
And yeah. Because I like I said, I've never bought at the auction myself, but I do enjoy going to see what's going on. And it's actually a source of private capital for me, going to these places, and I've met some people and shook hands with potential lenders, and it's just a really good kind of networking experience.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, all right, 500 properties. Was that the peak before you sold off some of your portfolio?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we now in your business? Like, what? I know we had talked offline. You said something about an office building, if I remember correctly.
So yeah, we basically had sold off about 250 of our units, so about half our portfolio. And about 3 years ago, we started also teaming up with another gentleman on flipping houses. Mm-hmm. And so we've been kind of now flipping about 70 homes a year. And now we're starting a management company as well. So we're offering our managing services to others.
What led you to sell 250 properties?
The market.
Yeah, I mean,
it's been crazy.
Yeah.
Cash out.
Exactly.
And we're not, we're certainly never people that are ever immune to, like I said, we didn't know what we're doing, and we're stumbling our way through our existence in real estate. So not everything works great all the time. So there's the, loans and debts and things like that we need to restructure. A lot of different reasons, to downsize your holdings.
And honestly, early on, we were buying whatever we could get our hands on. So I would say we sold off a lot of the stuff that just wasn't the best property, maybe more of a, C or D class property that we just didn't really want. And I'd rather keep the stuff that takes less of our time. I mean,
think about it. I mean, you buy a house, maybe that it's not that great. You renovated it, but you didn't like fully renovate it. We got it working and it was in okay shape, but it wasn't like nice and amazing. And, you keep attracting and you just keep finding yourselves with just garbage, absolute non-performing tenants that trash the place, move out with massive balances after you evict them. It sits, you have a huge turnover cost. You finally rent it again. And guess what? You replace them with somebody else who just doesn't treat your property very well. And, you can only go through so much of that before you say, man, like I just got to get out of this house in this neighborhood.
And you can make the property look great, but you can't really necessarily change the whole neighborhood unless you are able to buy all the properties on the street and then call it Yellow Brick Road. You can't really do anything else. So you gotta.
Yeah, we don't want to pay for and we're not paying for the trademark on that crap. So we're not doing that.
All right, so I want to dive in on this because it sounds like you guys are used to buying properties in rough areas, like rough neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And for me, personally, that's been something that I steer away from, right? Because, for lack of a better word, I'm afraid of some shit going down. How has that been for you? Right, being in that business, and do you have any stories that stand out? Like, have there been any confrontational events or events that made you?
People just hug us everywhere we go. We get pats on the back, hugs. It's amazing.
I know you got some thick skin, man. Come on, what? Give us one story that sticks out where it's like something just.
It's okay. So okay. So I don't want to take too long. I'm the one that tends to ramble and rant a little bit much. So ironically, our very first property, we had one of our worst tenants in. And they were, I'm trying to be tactful, but they were bad people. But we also allowed the situation to be worse because we didn't know how to handle challenging tenants at that point. We didn't have a good skill set to limit how difficult the tenant could be.
Systems.
Or systems. So, we finally got rid of those dirtbags. Can I say that? We got rid of those freaking people. And moved on with our life. Well, 2 years at least later, we were working on a property that we had just recently acquired, and they were actually driving down the street in their little, their crappy, van of some sort, this broken down piece of junk that was just chugging down the street. And I guess in the vehicle with them, they had what I found out to be some kind of relative, like a cousin who had, recently rejoined their family after being incarcerated for whatever length of time. And they spotted us as they were driving down the street. This is middle of an afternoon, broad daylight, nice sunny day. And, we're out in front. I think it's around the first of a month probably. So maybe they thought we were collecting rents. I don't know. But what they did apparently was they drove around the corner, dropped this guy out of the vehicle. And he apparently came walking down the street, just like anybody else, and again, in a tough neighborhood, blends right in, got the hoodie up, doesn't look out of place, just looks like a dude coming down the street with a hoodie up. And very, very tall guy. I'm a head taller than Matt, no offense. And, this guy was a head taller than I am. And nobody's really paying attention to anything. I mean, he's just a passerby. And I'm sitting in the passenger seat of our Jeep, or one of our work vehicles, and I got the door open, and I'm literally looking down at my cell phone. I'm checking my voicemail, and all of a sudden I got whacked. And I thought it was, we were loading up the Jeep. I think Matt was in the back. You were putting stuff in. I thought maybe somebody was tossing tools to Matt, and he was like putting them in and loading them up. And I thought they missed him and whacked me. And I, turned to be like, what the hell, you idiots? And sure enough, there's this dude just, in the doorway of the Jeep, hovering over me and, reaching to grab it to hit me again. He had punched me right in the side of the face. I had no idea what had happened. And I just thought somebody, tossed a tool. So, I turned a bit as he lunged back at me again into the Jeep, and I kind of shoved him with my foot out of the door a bit, and I'm to my aid. I mean, this guy in the middle of the day just whacked me, and I'm like, I notice where people are, and I see Matt right near me. I'm like, dude, grab him, And Matt realizes what's going on, because you know what? I mean, I'm not like a super popular guy, but everybody knows me from around town. I'm around all over the place, and people will come up, be like, "Hey, man, what's going on? How's it going?" And a lot of this guy just walked right up and like kind of nobody thought anything of it. So I shoved him out as best I could, yelled for help. So again, brought attention to the situation, and then I did the one thing I've only done once ever since I started this, and I can still remember the sound today of the metal on leather as I pulled my Smith & Wesson out of its holster and shoved it right in this guy's face.
By the way, as I am jumping on this guy's back, who's like 3 heads taller than me.
He looked like a backpack on this guy. He looked like a freaking backpack hugging the guy from the back. It was hysterical.
I pulled him to the ground. He's on top of me as I'm holding him.
Yeah, it was great, man. I gotta say, in those kind of situations, you never know. You like to think how you would react and what you would do and how you would handle yourself. You really never know until you're in those situations. And that's the one thing in my life I'll give myself some credit for is I felt like, thank you. I felt like I was on some kind of a TV, police show, and I don't think anybody, I think maybe one person has heard me swear. He was there. I don't swear, but I was dropping F-bombs, and so I pulled my gun out. I'm pointing it at him, and I'm like, I didn't shoot because I clearly saw Matt was now, wrapped up on the guy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I was like, get on the ground. I'm just, just like you would see, in a police video. Get on the ground, and sprinkled with some expletives. And as soon as I saw that, he was on the ground now, and one of the contractors had come over, and they started pretty much doing what needed to be done. I put my gun back in the holster. I took my phone out, and I started trying to do everything. I started trying to record video, take pictures, and call 911 all at the same time. These smartphones, they don't work for that. Meanwhile, I'm like spitting out a little piece of chipped molar, and just try to keep my cool, trying to do all the right thing to document this stuff. So the guy had a knife. They were, I think the remark was made. What did the guy say? What was his name? He was
Carlos.
Carlos. So he's just going to town on the guy on the ground, and the guy's literally flailing away with his knife, and he's like, he's calling him names, and he's like, you brought a freaking knife to a gunfight, you know what I mean? And the guy got loose, stumbled away, and the family had come around the corner with their van, picked him up.
Yeah.
So I stood in front of the van as best I could to try to detain everything. Police don't get there in time. They just don't, And what do they always say? When about whatever it is, police are always just 2 minutes away, something like that. When seconds matter, police are just minutes away.
Yeah, I mean it's a whole conversation for another day, but that's a huge topic, right? Second Amendment, but, you need to be able to protect yourselves because the police can't always be there to save you, right? It could have been the other way around. That he could have pulled something out, and you might not be here today on this podcast. But
a couple holes in me, sure.
Wow, that's intense. That's intense. Did the guy ever get caught? Did he get caught for the assault?
They don't even try to pursue it here because they classified it as a simple assault outside of the whatever view of a police officer, because the attack itself was simply a punch. I didn't get stabbed. I didn't get robbed for rent monies. So it went down as, a simple assault outside of a presence of a police officer. They just don't prosecute that kind of stuff here for that. So, wow. There's a lot of different ways it could have been handled afterwards. These people are, not invisible, but you just shrug. I mean, I missed a day of work. My jaw was broken in 2 places, or like a staircase fracture, I guess. So everybody at the office and my coworkers all appreciated the fact that I talked a lot less than I normally would have. But Didn't have to get any surgery or anything. I had to talk like this. I felt like Kanye West a little bit with his first album, through the wire. No wire, no surgery.
Wow.
Did great. And I was back in court 2 days later, representing our business and doing my job.
Yep.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that wild story with us, man. Gentlemen, the listeners, they've been tuned in for the last 54 minutes, and it's this part of the show where we talk about your message to up-and-coming entrepreneurs that are inspired by your story, that maybe want to go out and start their own real estate business, or they're looking for that one piece of information, that one golden nugget to get up off their butt and get into gear. So we'll go one by one. We'll start off with Matt. What's your message to the people?
I would say that, get off your butt and actually, just start. I mean, I think the key is just actually starting, whether it be researching a property or researching a business, whatever, entrepreneurial endeavor that you're going for, just start. I mean, I think that's just kind of the key, and don't let, fear stop you, and get as much education as you can, but then just start. And that's what I would do.
Love it. And Kevin, how about you?
I would say, don't do it. Are you crazy? Did you not just listen to the story about how the guy jumped me in broad daylight? What are you nuts? Have some respect for your life. No, seriously, have patience, but don't have too much patience. Have the right temperament for whatever you're going to get into. If you're too patient, you're going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And if you're, if you don't have enough patience, you're going to be doing things all in the wrong order and too aggressive. So you have to find the right mix. Best thing I can tell you is a lot of people want to go it alone, and that's awesome. But finding other people that do complement your weaknesses and working with them really, really helps. Matt is a great example of that. He's great at the things he's great at. And he's weaker at the things that he's weak at. And I tend to fill in a lot of those holes. So that really does help a lot, I think, with us. So we love, honestly, this is the, like I said, I worked managing stores and retail and everything like that before I had real jobs where I worked hard for other people and made them very successful and rich. And I wish I could have gotten those years back and put that success in my pocket, in my bank account, instead of theirs. So if you, if you're sick of making other people wealthy and you just want to start making yourself wealthy, start betting on yourself and start giving it a try.
Boom. I love it. And with that being said, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with the people. You guys are doing some big things. For the listeners out there that want to connect with you and give you some feedback for the episode, what's the best place for them to do so?
Well, we would love it. It's our new pet project. So we would love it if people would check out and leave some comments on our YouTube channel. We just started it a few weeks ago. We've been adding content just every week, very religiously. It's called Two Guys Take on Real Estate. And, it's going to be full of me ranting. It's going to be full of Matt providing helpful tips about how to fix things. And basically the biggest thing he tells people is to not let Kevin fix your projects for you. But no, seriously, it's becoming a lot of fun for us. We're going to keep building it out. And, we're really trying to build that so we can help other people avoid the same kind of mistakes we made through our 12 years so they can become successful faster and not have to go through some of the struggles that we had to.
Yep.
Like getting jumped in broad daylight.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and best of luck with that deal.